Hey, good evening. This is David Knapp, and I'm here to talk this evening about triggers in flies. And by triggers, we mean what are the elements of the fly that really get the fish to bite it. And each fly is different. Some have a lot of triggers. Some of the modern streamers we're seeing nowadays have so many different trigger points. It's unbelievable. Some of the more traditional flies, little small dry flies, for example, the trigger may just simply be that it really does a good job of imitating what the fly is supposed to imitate. Tonight, though, I want to look at UV materials. UV reactive materials can be a trigger in and of themselves in a fly. One of the great summer patterns in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park is a green weenie, which is just simply an inchworm imitation. And we traditionally tie that with chartreuse chenille. And there's a couple different things that we can use. Normally, we just use a basic small ultra chenille, and that could be the micro, it could be the standard, depending on the size of the fly that you want to tie. Here's the thing about this fly. You can see that chenille right there, I think. And the thing that you really need to understand about the fly is what that looks like when it's hit with UV light. So I'm going to turn on a UV flashlight here and light that thing up, and notice how bright that just got. By the way, I'm using a Loon UV flashlight. These things are awesome. Use them for curing UV clear finish from Loon or really any other company. But this flashlight is a great tool for a tire beyond just curing UV resins. So there's another material. It's called Easy Magic Dub, and it's kind of like a chenille, and it's another good material for tying a green weenie. And you can see there it's nice and bright. I'm going to hit it with the UV flashlight. You see it just gets a little bit brighter. Get in there close, you can see it's just really, really bright. So what I want you to be thinking about with UV materials is there's going to be a time and a place where that is going to be a great trigger point in a fly if the fly includes that. But there's also days where it's not going to work. If you ever fished the Smokies and had a really good day fishing green weenies, you know that they can be awesome, but you know you might go back a week later, 2 weeks later, and maybe the fish haven't been seeing those inchworms as much, or maybe they've been getting hit with too many imitations, and you throw a green weenie and they won't touch it. So you gotta think outside the box, do something a little bit different. And it's possible on those days that it's just a little bit too much for them when that sunlight's hitting that fly and it's just really glowing from their perspective. Another point I want to make is not all materials that look like they might be reactive are going to be. So here's a material that I use for a hot head quite a bit on flies. Makes a great head for a stimulator. It's just a fire orange uni thread. And I'm going to hit this thing with my light, and you can see it's just glowing again. I'm going to take something that's almost identical in color. You can see those two things really, really similar. One of them is called orange, and that's the one right here. The other was fire orange. So I'm gonna hit that orange, same thing, and you can see it maybe gets just slightly brighter just because there's a light on it, but it's really not that reactive. Some materials that you may not even expect are going to be reactive. So here's a couple of just random spools of thread that I've had sitting around for years. I don't know when I picked them up. One's kind of a pinkish color, the other's kind of an orange, and they turn some crazy colors when I hit them with this light. Watch this. I mean, I don't even know if you can see in the video, they're so bright. The one that was orange turns a light yellow color, and the pink just gets brighter pink. And it's unbelievable what they look like. So consider those things when you're tying flies. Consider if it's what you want. Also consider there's going to be times where you don't necessarily intend to do that, and it might still do it. So here's a really good example of it. Fly I tie a lot for the Smokies is a Teleco nymph. And Teleco is going to catch a lot of fish. It imitates a golden stonefly nymph, probably first and foremost. If you tie it in the real small sizes, it could probably imitate a, yellow Sally stonefly nymph or even like an early brown stonefly nymph or something. But one of the materials that I use is life cycle stonefly yellow dubbing, and I've got a few packs of these. I always buy a bunch when I have them. This must be an older pack, and when I hit this pack with the light, you can see nothing. It's just dubbing. It doesn't really react. And here's another pack, clearly from another batch, because check out what happens when I hit it with this light. I don't know if you can tell there, but all of a sudden there's some interesting things happening in that dubbing that did not happen in that first batch. So some dubbing is intentionally going to have some UV reaction, and this is actually a great example. I love ice dub. I do a lot of things with ice dub. This is called UV fluorescent hot pink. So you can only imagine, you know, you hit it with that light and it's just even brighter than it was. Others that you maybe didn't expect. So this is a Sow Scud tan rainbow dubbing, and I'm gonna do the same thing. Gonna hit it with that lamp, and just like some crazy colors start showing up in there that you didn't really expect. But when you tie something with that pattern, you got to remember that it's going to be looking absolutely crazy. That's about all I have, and mostly my main motivation for doing this is I really just encourage you as tyers to consider the materials that you're using, consider what the fish perspective might be, and if you're fishing these on a bright sunny day, they're going to look a lot different. And if you really just want to include something like a hot spot in a nymph, for example, I did a hot spot pheasant tail video a few weeks ago, and really good thing you can do instead of just plain thread is you can actually get things that are intended to react this way. So one of my favorites, I don't know if you can see that real well, but it's called Glow Bright, and here's just a couple of samples. One's a chartreuse and one's a hot pink. I'll just try these with my UV lamp, and there they go. You can see that chartreuse is really reactive, but the pink really lights up also. So in your tying, just consider trigger points in your flies, and one of those trigger points can be, does it include something that's UV reactive or not? So next time we'll look at some other possible trigger points in a fly. Until then, get out there, keep tying, and keep fishing those flies. Have a good evening.